Hey, Mirka, thank you for coming in today. Wow. I, I was looking at your background, and we've been working together, sitting on this impact advisory board for YPO, but just a tremendous history of contribution and accomplishment and innovation. And I mean, you name every dimension, you do it. You're very active, very very innovative, very inventive, a great leader. Just your background is just tremendous, and it continues this history of contribution. So, really appreciate you coming in and sharing your insights with our audience.
Thank you, Stephen, for those kind words.
So, Mirka, you do have this amazing history, and we're going to mine some of this history. In fact, go into all of the detail will probably take like half a day. There's just so much here, or a day. And so I recommend the audience, you've got to look at this background, the profile that's published in the interview. There's just so much richness in what you're doing and continue to do, what you've done in the past, and so on. So, but what were these, maybe two or three inflection points that made this wonderful person you are today and this wonderful career you have both in the personal and professional side? And it could have been something that happened when you were 3 or 5, something in the family, outside the family, something that happened in school. What were those magic moments that created this wonderful person?
Thank you again, Steve. Well, I do go back to my childhood. As you know, I'm active in the water industry, and I joke that I actually have water running in my veins. Both my parents were water professionals. My dad was a professor and conducted research in municipal drinking water, wastewater. My mom was from the field. In fact, they met in the lab. So dinner conversations growing up was about water treatment. Every vacation, we had to stop at some stinky treatment plant. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is awful. I'm going to get as far away as possible from it. But in reality, I came back as I realized later on that, it's such a strong purpose, and it can be a multi-generational commitment that I can carry forward from the wonderful work my dad has done to now carrying it into the world from a commercial perspective. So definitely the early exposure to water treatment and what it means for this blue planet that we live on, and how critical it is for life to have access to clean water. So I would say that one was definitely a first one. Having grown up in a family that's so dedicated to a purpose, I wanted to make sure I have my own contributions to the well-being of this planet. And initially, I wanted to join the UN. In fact, I even did an internship in Geneva during my undergraduate time. Loved it. I loved the international exposure. I loved the, being at the pulse of topics that are moving the world. And wanted to absolutely pursue that career to save the world. My goal was, I'm going to save the world. Naive as I was back then, right? But they all recommended to me, don't do it. Don't join, don't start in the UN, go to industry. It's the same skill sets, learn your project management and all that in the private sector, and then come back. And so I did. I started with Siemens, a big German corporation dedicated to technology. And I think that's the third inflection point, realizing how much opportunity there is as a company, as an organization, to do good, use business as a force for good, providing infrastructure that is so critically important for communities around the world, whether it is energy or otherwise. And then Siemens did me a favor and acquired a water business in 2004. And that's when the whole circle came back together, and I joined the water business within Siemens. And since then, I have been active in the water space. So I think, the combination of that strong family legacy, that strong desire to drive impact and contribute with what I can, and using water as an opportunity on this blue planet to make sure that we have access to clean drinking water and support our communities that way.
Wow. I mean, so I can now understand the family aspect, and then the purposeful aspect as well, because that's sort of like the lifeblood of your family. And then you're taking that on, and then you get this opportunity. You're thinking UN, and people say, no, go into private industry. And then you get this opportunity with Siemens, and you end up in water. So it's this confluence of all of these major forces to create this wonderful career you have, but also on the professional and personal side. Now, you talk about let's mind a little bit about your education, what you do in your undergraduate to graduate, and then for your PhD.
So I joke, I'm usually the only non-engineer in the companies I'm involved in. I studied business and social sciences in my undergraduate, as well as my master. I finished a master in international management and social sciences, and then my PhD is in social sciences, organizational sociology, to be exact, focusing on intercultural management. I was looking at, we have all these wonderful formal processes, target setting and processes, and they're great. And yet, do they really explain how we bridge all these cultural differences across the world, especially if we're an international company? And how do you make that happen? And really came back to the human infrastructure of organization. And that really is how we connect and combine, come together to make an organization go, even when there's such diverse, complex cultural influences on a company. So I'm a strong believer in the human capacity.
Yeah, and in fact, social sciences really have a system kind of approach sometimes as well, I think, and it's
Right.
very interdisciplinary. That's what I find when I talk to people who have a social science and business background. In fact, a gentleman who actually invented the term data science, his PhD is in sociology.
Mm.
But in his undergrad, he did statistics and math, and then he ended up. But it's that social sciences seems to be a great crucible for doing any kind of work, it seems like, and really making a significant contributions. I can see how that was the catalyst for all the things that you're doing now. And as you mentioned, the fundamentals are people. Okay, so your first job then was Siemens, or was that your second job? What's your job history?
Yeah, so I joined Siemens. My first role was in South Africa on a project in Kinshasa, the Congo. And then from there moved to Germany, which was a bit of a cultural shock. I'm German, I'm joking there, but really had a strong drive to go abroad, spend some time in China, then Indonesia, then Bangkok. I was part of the in-house strategy consultant team. So send around the world on assignments, which was wonderful to nurture my sense of adventure. Had the opportunity to work with people in all kinds of countries. And then in 2009, I moved from strategy into water, became the head of strategy M&A for the Siemens water business. And from there into product management and innovation. Siemens carved out the business in 2014 and we became private equity owned. So the company changed its name to Evoqua Water Technologies, stayed on there as a general manager, part of the business. Through our IPO in 2017, which was a wonderful, thrilling experience. In 2019, I joined Denora Water Technologies. That's an Italian family-owned company, headquartered out of Milan, Italy, but with manufacturing plants around the world, dedicated to disinfection filtration technology. So I did that the last 4 years. Did the successful IPO there on the Euronext in 2022, if I'm correct. And since 3 months now, 4 months, I'm now a CEO of Aqueous Vets. We're a portfolio company of Bain Capital Double Impact Fund. And we are dedicated to filtering contaminants of concerns, such as PFAS, get that out of the water.
Wow. I mean, you work with one of the largest conglomerates in the world, Siemens. You get this tremendous opportunity to get into management, but also in water. And it's like Germany, China, Thailand, Indonesia, the United States, South Africa. And that'll give you a really great multicultural, sort of inclusive approach because you see all of the differences in these different cultures and how things are done. And then you end up being the vice president and general manager Evoqua, the water technology, and you end up doing an IPO, which is quite difficult. I mean, there's a lot of work required, right? And that would be really eye-opening for you. And it's also rare too to get that opportunity. And then you end up also with working in another IPO as well with an Italian company, I think you mentioned, right? So that's Denora Water Technologies,
Correct.
where you were the CEO, in fact, the first female CEO working in filtration and a global footprint in the water industry. And again, going public again. So that's two successful IPOs. And then you are the president chief executive officer of Aqueous Vets, and it's associated with Bain Capital, which is also a well-known venture group. So that's an amazing real history here. So what are some of the lessons you've learned then in terms of water, working with these water sort of focused companies? I mean, what are the lessons that you want to share with the audience, and what are the challenges that are upcoming? I guess scarcity would be one of them. I guess climate would be intersecting with this. I mean, so what are your views of water?
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, one of my goals is to make water a stronger part of the sustainability discussion. We talk a lot about climate change and sustainability. The energy industry has done a tremendous job in narrowing it down to one KPI, carbon. And now we're all focused on decarbonization. And I can't tell you how many panels I've been sitting on having to explain the decarbonization strategy of my business. And of course we have one, but as a water space, I feel like we're missing the point. We're missing the point of positioning why there should also be a water sustainability strategy. We are the blue planet. This is the only planet that is defined by water, as far as I know. And so there is an opportunity for us to, and a responsibility, I think, to make sure that we take care of this blue planet. And of course, we can reference all of the statistics of the 2.4 billion people that live without access to clean water, and the impact that has on human health, right? I mean, they say 400 children under the age of 5 die every year. That's 10,000 per day. Or the other statistic the UN has is that every 10 seconds, a human being dies from a water-related issue. So it's important for human life. It's then we have all these catastrophic events, the disasters, the floods, the droughts, that equally cause pain and grief to a lot of people. So, and then we need water in our industry, right? If we say, okay, let's forget about us humans, but for our economy, if we're purely economic driven, water is part of most every industrial process as well. So we have a need, a responsibility to take care of this water. But as an industry, we have failed so far to make it easy. Usually when you ask a water professional, what's your key KPI? Well, it's not that easy, right? There's multiple key quantity and quality and influence, and we make it so complicated that we lose the audience and don't manage to create a momentum that is easy enough for the public and for everyone to understand, to support that goal and mission to help drive sustainability of water. So I think there's an opportunity for us in the water space and a need to come together and define something practical so that we can have water become a stronger part in the sustainability discussion.
Yeah, I mean, water is so crucial to all life. So it's not just humans, it's all life really on the planet, right? And it's a major part of our ecosystem. In fact, it's the largest part of our ecosystem is water. And the intersection of water with really every one of the sustainable development goals, or the 232 measures, or the 169 targets, in some way water can influence all of them, and because it's so integral to who we are. So so you're thinking we've lost this sort of message to be at the forefront and priority because of the complexity that's being put forward, and really we're making it too complex. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I think if we could come together as an industry, or as thought leaders, and define something simple enough that it's meaningful, and it helps us to drive momentum, create that fellowship that people understand and can follow along, whether it's from a business perspective or from a community perspective. That would really help to get more momentum going. So that's one of the discussions I'm hoping to have at the upcoming Global Impact Summit in Rwanda. I'll make the call to action there too.
So is there then some kind of association or alliance that can do a force multiplier on the branding message about water and get a concrete message? Some pivot points that are required to create some focus, or not? There must be some kind of alliance you belong to, right?
Yeah, there's conversations we're having. I think Blue Tech Forum is maybe amongst the most vocal. There's other industry leaders that are voicing it, but we haven't come together yet as common statement or common approach.
So that would be interesting then, forming a water alliance.
Mm.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of a water alliance, right? From a country standpoint, private industry, NGOs. I mean, everybody. I can't think of anybody who wouldn't support it. It's like healthcare or hunger or poverty. I mean, everybody would get behind it. And then you get a branding method, and then you can use large language models to produce some key messages. I'm just thinking, or working with some of the advertising associations who are. It's interesting. I had a conversation with the chief executive for an advertising association, and they want to partner with some key messages that have impact. I'm thinking you would be perfect because of it's in your DNA. Or I had another request which was water-based, and they were looking for experts. I'm going to mention you, right? Refer to you because you are like sort of a renowned water expert. Do you think you can coalesce some kind of an alliance then because of your profile and the strong sort of mission that you have and perspective and passion?
Oh, sure. I mean, I hope that's where the journey leads. I won't be able to do it on my own. I've learned that a long time ago, that we need a village to come together of individuals, leaders that share that passion and can all contribute from their perspective with their skill set and capabilities, and we can create something together. But I'm absolutely on the journey of trying to find like-minded friends to help me on this path.
And that's why you were mentioning the Young Presidents Organization, which is YPO. That's YPO represents the Young Presidents Organization, of which you're a key member. And then the Global Impact Summit, which is this community coming together in Rwanda and really literally under 2 weeks to look at force for good, business for good, coming together and working together. And you're going to be the driver of that message with your colleagues, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you can form your initial alliance within the YPO community and then expand from there.
Yes, that's one of my goals now.
I'm just thinking Bernard Kotzwatch is going to be there, and he's the head of the innovation accelerator at the World Food Program. And water is so integral to food.
Correct.
And they have massive amount of countries that are beyond what they that work with them. He'd be a good one to partner with. Just thinking, brainstorming.
Yeah.
Because he can bring all of his communities into what you're doing as well.
Right.
So that's amazing. Do you get interest from governments then? Like, have you had interest from governments in the work that you're doing where they say, you know what, we want to be with you on what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, usually so we serve municipal utilities. So we are working with governmental agencies. As everyone else, they have their budgets, and their budgets are driven by election cycles and signed that way. And I've yet to see that you win an election promoting to fix the stinky treatment plant, right? You win it on school and other topics until it fails, and we have a problem like we have around the world and issues, and then we need to invest. But it really the infrastructure has been built in the 19th century. It's anything that's been built that long ago, material fatigue is falling apart. So it's underinvested, and it hasn't been built for population growth, urbanization. So the infrastructure that we have is in dire need, not just in developing countries, in the developed world, Europe, US, to have major investments. And so getting the acknowledgement of the need to put the investment in place to then establish the infrastructure, the technology. The technology, I always say, is the easiest part. We have, me and my colleagues from other companies, the technology is available, I really think. It's more like, where is the investment coming from to help us put in place an infrastructure that is suited?
I see. So that would really make it difficult in some ways, right? Because like you said, election cycles and getting it to the forefront is a priority. And as you indicated, also the infrastructure is aging and needs to be replaced or upgraded. And this is a systemic issue in every part of the world, whether it doesn't even exist in the developing parts of the world, or it exists, but it's failing in the developed parts of the world. So it's a universal global issue. And you're at the forefront of it. So it sounds like a great opportunity. Is just getting the message out, right?
Right. Yeah.
I would see this as being a driver within the Time Impact Awards as well. Have you talked to Simon McCaughey or some of the other colleagues out there to get the message?
No, not. What's your thought there?
So Simon was heading up Time Sustainability, of which he's working on carbon right now with CO2, but he also reports to Mark Benioff, who bought Time. And Time has their Time 100 awards, but they also have their Time Global Impact Awards. And this would be a perfect candidate for their Global Impact Awards, right? Because it's so universal and systemic in every region of the world, and it has to it has to be spotlighted or elevated. So I would recommend reaching out.
All right, thank you. Yeah, good idea.
Another one would be Leaders on Purpose. They hold a conference every year in September in New York. So it's the same time as the YPO UNGA, or the same month as the YPO UNGA. They hold something called Leaders on Purpose, and this would be a perfect message within that community. It tends to be multinationals plus large private industry, and the government is represented there. So there is a website called Leaders on Purpose, and the two founders are on that website, Tatiana and Krista. I would recommend reaching out to them to get involved within that community, get the message out. And again, bringing more power to bear on what's happening and how you want to, elevate this so that it has this same kind of feeling like climate has now become, major, and or different aspects of healthcare and so on. So I'm just kind of actively brainstorming in real time.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
So what are your sort of near-term goals then, or I would say, and then longer-term goals? What would you like to see happen, for example, in the company you're with right now? Just more proliferation of upgrading existing systems and so on? That would be something that you could measure as well, right?
Right. So right now, the company I'm with, Aqueous Vets, we're focusing on PFAS treatment. PFAS are forever chemicals that we have put in place as humans, like Teflon or water-resistant clothes. And these chemicals make it into the blood of humans and have now been proven to cause cancer. And so there's a big push starting in the US to remove the PFAS from the system. Europe is starting to talk about it too. And the wonderful thing is we have technology to remove it. And so there's a huge opportunity for us to get these systems out and protect, with a focus right now on the US water systems, but then expand from there. I think it's an example of the unintended consequences of some of the wonderful innovations we've put in place, and the consequences then on human health, and the need for putting in place technology to alleviate some of those challenges. So certainly a huge growth opportunity for Aqueous vets, and it's exciting to be part of an organization that is focusing on that, and using that again as a platform to promote a bigger picture for the importance of taking care of our water resources.
So, can your technology be used then, because it's a problem in the oceans as well? So not just the municipal water sources, and it's a universal. Any body of water, any water source has these contaminants, these emerging concerns, right? Contaminants of emerging concerns. Can your technology be applied to massive sort of areas like oceans and things like, because there's so many pollutants in there as well?
Yeah, I mean it's it's this question of sizing. We have sizes that treat from small rural communities all the way to big facilities. The ocean, right? You would have to have like a whole series of of units, and again, someone would have to put this in place. Someone would have to come up with the investment money to, where do you start and stop? So I think there's opportunities, but there also always needs to be a customer.
Yeah, so there is sort of the localized regional issues, which it's much easier, right? Because it's localized and you can manage that and removing the contaminants. Is it a long process, or does it scale really quite well in an municipal or on a regional basis? I
Yeah.
guess, how does it work?
Well, you have vessels with media, and you run the water through the vessels through the media, and the media captures the contaminants, and the outflow is safe to consume.
And then what do you do with the captured contaminants? Are you able to repurpose them in some way, or?
Yeah, so right now we're removing the PFAS. There's no technology yet in place to safely destruct. So that's some of the research going on. How can we destruct the PFAS? Right now, we're just removing it from the water bodies. And we can recycle the media to use it again for multiple applications.
I see. So that could be like an imagination into action. How can we take the PFAS and actually either reuse it or recycle it in some way, or separate it or something,
Yeah,
or be able to effectively get rid of it? And
yeah.
so that's an interesting challenge, and requires research. That do the feds in the US, are they interested in investing in any of this at all from a federal grant standpoint, like the National Science Foundation or something like that?
In the technology, well, there's some grants in the research side. I mean, I think especially there's a investment promises for the utilities to invest into technology to remove the contaminants. So that's helpful.
Okay, so, and in terms of water in other areas that are a concern to you, can you talk about that? For example, fresh water, or the glaciers, and what's happening with them. Do you have other sort of viewpoints that you want to express to the audience from a water standpoint?
Yeah, no, well, I'm focused on the treatment side, on the technology side. So usually my area of scope is industrial and municipal water that's already been used. I mean, we do have challenges around, the floods, the extreme weather events, which are through the glacier melting in other areas. Some of them are less technology focused, so that's less of my expertise.
Okay. And where do you see yourself then, in 5 to 10 years, continuing with this company, or at some point evolving out, or where do you see yourself professionally?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say I'm very dedicated to the water space. I feel this is a space I belong into. I can give my contributions. And it's great to be associated with an organization that has a strong purpose, right? Like the removal of contaminants. Unfortunately, I have to say that, well, even if we get a handle of PFAS, there's going to be other contaminants of emerging concern. So I think this is a great platform for me to serve in a particular organization, but also use that as a as a springboard for a broader message. So using my affiliation with YPO and others to bring the attention to a broader level. For me personally, it's one of my passion topics is diversity, using an organization to tap into all available talent, as I say, for the greater good of society. I feel that the water space has been long a lagger in innovation. And it's not a surprise to me if we continue to ask the same people the same questions, we're naturally going to get the same answers. So if we want to drive innovation, if we want to approach it in novel ways, not just from a technology point of view, but beyond business models, solution approach, we will have to ask people with different backgrounds, unconventional backgrounds, different experiences. We have to tap into those and allow them to ask different types of questions. And so my goal is to also build an organization that allows for that foundation of tapping into all available talent and coming up with very novel ideas, again, not just for the business, but for the greater good. And so my own personal moonshot is to create access to opportunity through diversity of thought, but unity of purpose around water.
So that's really interesting. So a unity of, or a confluence of, or a unity of ideas, but from diverse population viewpoints, right? And that's where you're going to get more innovation, more novel ideas coming forward. It's kind of reminds me of Christensen and all at Harvard and their innovators DNA, where they talk about questioning, observing, experimenting, associating, and networking. But the association part is getting diverse viewpoints, and networking again is diverse viewpoints, right? And exploring again is diverse, exploring in a diverse way and asking questions in a diverse way, and all of that comes from if you bring people from different backgrounds into this area. Now, you're a woman who has really succeeded in this space. Is there equal access, equity in this space, or is there an imbalance from that diversity standpoint as a senior executive? Are you rare or are you common?
Unfortunately, I'm rare. Early in my career, whenever I speak on a panel, I get the female question. And early in my career, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm here for my own right, not because I'm a woman, right? I did a 180-degree shift a few years ago, and I realized, why am I the only woman? Why am I always the only woman, right? And so there's a role I have to play in becoming that lighthouse, right? Not that my way is the only way to do it, but showing that people with different backgrounds. Right, I'm a social scientist. I'm female. I'm now an immigrant living in the U.S., but with a European background. Right? There's multiple diversity categories, and it's a unique path. But there's, I'm sure, other incredible talent out there that has a unique path. And so showing them that it's possible, but also allowing and tapping into that access to opportunity, as I call it. Right, there is a mainstream approach. This is how we've always done it, and how we are. It's a risk-averse industry, and so we need to allow ourselves to consider candidates that will not check all the boxes, but that will bring a breadth of different experiences and viewpoints and perspectives. And for me, it's not a check the box activity. DEI is now so popular, right? Every organization has their DEI program. But it sometimes feels like lip service, right? It's I'm trying to promote that we're not doing it just because we're good corporate citizens. We're doing it because it will drive innovation. We need the different viewpoints to get to new solutions.
So you mentioned YPO before, the Young Presidents Organization. How did you get involved with that? What was that process? Were you recruited, or somebody recommended it, or and then how long have you been in it? And then what are some of the activities that you do within YPO?
Yeah. So it was recommended to me by someone I incredibly respect, which is my brother, Martin Wilderer. He's also YPO member and very active in the sustainability space. So he joined a few years before me and said, Mirka, you've got to join. This is going to be really transformational for you. So I did in 2016. So I've been part of the organization for a while now. Have jumped in from the beginning. As always, the more you put in, the more you get out. So in the early years, I was very active in the Women's Business Network and found incredible female leaders from very different industries, but sort of we had that common experience. So that gave me a lot of encouragement. I'm now active in the Doing Business Globally network, a network that is dedicated to supporting members to drive business globally. And I'm in the Impact Advisory Board together with you. So that is close to my impact purpose, and active in the upcoming Global Impact Summit and other events that drive purpose focus.
So can you tell us, so a lot of people in the audience don't know what YPO is. Can you talk about what YPO is?
Of course. So YPO, Young Presidents Organization, it's a global organization of CEOs. There are certain access criteria of size of the organization you're leading. Worldwide, it's 35,000 members from all kinds of industries. We are organized typically by chapter, so regionally in the region that you reside in. But then we have, as a matrix, networks around certain interest topics. Where you have affiliation by interest. So there's a sustainability network, there's the Doing Business Globally network, there's the Women's Business Network. So networks that bring together members with a certain interest and focus. And then what YPO is dedicated to is lifelong learning. How can we become the best possible leaders? And so we focus in these, overall a lot of leadership development, a lot of personal growth, reflection, but also, in certain interest topics, then events around these interest topics.
So you write as well, or you're an author, or you do some blogging, or what's your writing sort of activity that you're
Well, I published my PhD and my master thesis in a different age, in a different life. My husband actually published a book, Lean On, How to Support Executive Women as They Lean In, which was a research project he did working together with a lot of the male spouses of the female members. What is it like to be married to a headstrong woman? So in our joint effort in supporting female leadership, I'm currently not working on a book. I have a few ideas, but I'm currently most active on LinkedIn once in a while with some thought recommendations and suggestions there.
You won quite a few different awards, like the Global Water Intelligence as one of the top 20 most powerful women in the water industry. One of the top 100 innovation CEOs, one of the most admired CEOs, Titan 100, Colorado top CEOs, top 100 under 50 executives, emerging leaders. I mean, 40 under 40. I mean, it kind of list goes on and on. Can you talk about how that happened? It's because of all of your leadership, and then what that did. Or did it empower you to get your message out more? I mean, what were the benefits, and how could you leverage it, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the purpose. I mean, the joy is always to get recognition. Not for me personally, it takes a village. I've been fortunate to have been able to work with incredible people that help to make success happen. And so then it's that recognition, not just for myself, but for a team that has worked hard on transforming an organization. I do think it helps to drive the message towards the water space. It helps to drive the message towards unique career paths, and it's possible to pursue, dare to dream big and pursue ambitious goals. What I'm trying to do is very actively mentor the next generation. So I only mentor women. That's my commitment to the next generation. And I have mentees in every single large water organization. I try to bring them together in a platform that I call Diversity in Water, just again to support each other, to have a community where you can test thoughts, but also where you can see different examples of careers and get that support, peer-to-peer support to keep going. So that's my personal mission, to use the platform that I have to encourage that, tapping into all available talent and providing access to opportunity.
I see. So that's why now, like, you're a member of the Gen CEO Women's Network in Germany, the International Women's Forum, or the IWF, the Forbes Women's Forum. And you mentioned earlier the board of Doing Business Business Globally Network and the Impact Advisory Board of YPO, and a lot of the activity of YPO. It's just really just to get the word out, to bring action to the impact that you want to make, and bring in all of this diversity. You also are a frequent public speaker on CEO panels. You just did a webinar with the Salesforce and so on. So I guess that work's going to just continue. And you're even thinking of some books, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
But it'd be on water in some way, right?
Well, no, I think it will be on leadership and diversity and empowering unique pathways. So
Right. And okay. And then have you ever thought of maybe holding classes and things like that at the university level, just coming in as a guest lecturer or something, because you've got this PhD in international business and social sciences, you have the master's of social science and business studies and so on. So you got the academic background, but you got so much industry experience and society experience in bringing all of that into a sort of a teaching platform. Have you ever considered?
yeah, I would love to. I think that would be a fun challenge, again, to also investing in the next generation and empowering them. So that would certainly be something of interest.
And you have children. Are they YNGers? Are they formally, or are they too young yet? Or
They're too young. So I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. So I'm bringing my 16-year-old to a YNG event this summer when he's 17. So I've asked him if he can bring him a little early. But yeah, so we're getting him exposed soon.
And just for the audience, YNGers are YPO next generation. So you're prepping the next generation,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so we're down to our last maybe one or two questions. Is there any area that you want to bring to the audience that we haven't discussed yet? Sorry, we had a little bit of a hiccup on the internet, so
I think we've covered the topics of passion for me, which is water, space, and diversity. So
okay, so what, and this is the last question. What recommendations do you want to leave for the audience?
yeah, well, I would say dare to dream big. Don't take no for an answer, right? Just because we have always done it this way doesn't justify that we continue to do it. We have a blue planet that this is our livelihood. We need to invest in it. And that's something that we can all impact. And really encourage to tap into people from different backgrounds, to hear different thoughts. That requires courageous conversations. It requires listening to ideas that maybe aren't popular, but hopefully there's a nugget in there. So really encourage, that reaching out, and not going the mainstream way, but daring to dream big and go bold. Yeah.
Well, Mirka, again, thank you for coming in and sharing so much of your experiences, your insights, your passion, your commitment, your success history, and all of the recommendations you gave and throughout the entire chat we had today. Just a marvelous, wonderful individual you are, and the contributions you're making are just amazing. So it's an honor to have this dialogue with you in chat. So thank you again.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you for inviting me over. I'm impressed by all the individuals you have interviewed in the past, and so it's an honor to be among that list. Thank you.
So we'll see you soon at the YPO Global Impact Summit. Oh,
See you soon, Stephen.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.